Welcome to the Quit Your Job and Get Creative podcast, where we talk to women who have quit their jobs and started their creative businesses. I'm your host, Jocelyn Clarkson, and I'm so excited for today's interview because this is my first guest on this podcast. I have here Bella Caetano, founder and designer of Bellina Caetano, a Brazilian jewelry line designed by her in Chicago and made sustainably in Brazil. Welcome, Bella. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you, Joss. This is a dream come true since we know from the very beginning of our journey.
Yes, I am so excited. And the reason why I'm so excited to have you here is because you also, the way we've met, you gave me an opportunity to really start my brand. And I feel like us sitting here and having, as my first guest really comes full circle. So let's talk about how we met. I remember seeing your Instagram and your website and just hearing about you through my friends. And, they would say that, there's this awesome girl named Bella who started her jewelry line and she has a store on Michigan Avenue. And I remember one of our friends, I said, you know what? Take me to her. I need to go see her. I need to go see what she's all about, and I need to go meet this girl. And I remember meeting you, and you just welcomed us with like open arms, and you had the most beautiful store on Michigan Avenue, and it was just such a fun time, and it felt really like I was at your house being, just hosted by you. So it was really cool. And, you gave me the opportunity to really launch my clothing brand, Swap and Strut, at your store as a pop-up. So, thank you for that. And I'm just happy that I can, interview you, be my first guest. So I'm so happy to have you.
Oh, thank you for having me and giving really this opportunity, not just for me to listen to myself, what I have done for other entrepreneurs, because that has always been the dream, but I never really knew am I accomplishing and fulfilling my mission.
Yeah.
And being here as your first guest and learning from you what you have accomplished so far since we opened the doors for your brand.
Yeah.
It gives me a seal of stamp, for the mission. I think we are on track to help many other entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah, so thank you for being here and sharing your story. And before we get into Bellina Caetano and how you started, and we want to talk about 6 things you would do, or actually 5 things you would do differently if you were starting your business all over again. I want to take it back to the beginning. So what did you want to be when you were a young girl?
I think, so when I was a young girl, I was in a very little town in Brazil. So since all I had was the people from my little town plus television, I kind of had to dream, with what I could see. And for me at that time, 31 years ago, that's a long time, 31 years ago in my little town in Brazil, I could see that some careers looked good in TV, right? Maybe a secretary. That's really what I first wanted to be. And of course, at my time, computers were not a thing in Brazil, actually. But I remember getting the shoebox and turning it into a computer. And I would gladly just I drew the little letters and numbers on the cover of the shoebox, and my pleasure would be to type with my fingers just to listen to the of the computer. So I think that right there in that moment, I found out one of my biggest interests, which was being creative. Mm-hmm. And one of my biggest abilities today that really separates me from other people is my ability to create.
Right.
And my ability to turn things that don't necessarily exist yet into reality.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so from wanting to be a secretary, I found out that I'm really good at creating things.
Look at you now, creating amazing jewelry, which I'm wearing, by the way. My next question was going to be, when did you discover your creative talents? But it sounds like you discovered that as almost like making the most of what you had, right? Yeah. And creating things yourself out of scratch and whatever materials you had. But talk about architecture school. So that kind of guided you and led you to studying to be an architect, correct?
Yeah. So since I was a little girl, I found out about this creative side of me, right? And architecture was the only formal career that I could think of. I felt that it was one of the paths I could take, still have a job, a formal job, and use my creativity. And obviously, I'm not an architect right now, but I did attend architecture school in São Paulo for over 3 years. And then I found out that architecture wasn't really for me, and I needed something more creative than being commissioned to build a house for someone. I was more interested on being free to create new things with my mind that the world would not know yet they need, but they would fall in love when they see it.
Yeah.
And that was jewelry. I could create collections, and that was the big dream.
Right. So how did you land on jewelry? And now shifting focus to, talking about how you opened or how you started Bellina Caetano. What was that moment that you realized that it was jewelry? Did you just wake up and you're like, it's going to be jewelry, or did you try something else and it just, you found your way to jewelry?
I think that, so jewelry came to my vision still when I was living in Brazil in 2016. I was about to move to the US, and jewelry was the one thing I knew I could design and produce. That is the one item that was logistically reasonable to bring from Brazil to the US, because there was a little bit of pride in my head. I'm gonna move to the US. I moved here to marry my today husband, but Brazil is gonna have to go with me somehow.
Yeah.
And jewelry just sounded small enough for me to make logistics work. At that time, I didn't know yet how to be a jewelry designer, but I knew that I could bring with me some jewelry, start from there, build my brand, and then maybe one day I will be able to launch my very own collection.
Right.
And just to clarify that between that day in 2016 that I decided that maybe, because I decided that maybe,
right.
Because it's scary to move to another country and go through immigration process, and so even when you decide, you still have a maybe, a big question mark. Is this gonna work?
Right.
Is this even gonna be doable in another completely new country? So I came with that desire, and between that moment and when I really launched my first collection in 2018, it was a lot of, man, this is not working. Maybe I should sell bags. The bags are not enough. Maybe I should sell, trust me, I sold teacups, scissors, scarves, like anything that I could make some money out of it.
Okay.
I would basically sell. And the moment came really to be jewelry when I got my very first mentor, and she said to me very clearly that if I wanted to make Brazil proud, I would have to make that decision actually, and
right.
be the best jewelry designer I could possibly be.
Right, like you almost had to pick, because then if you have too many things going
Yes.
on, then you're not really focusing 100% on one thing.
Exactly.
So you moved to the US, you got married, and you started this jewelry line, which is so many big life milestones happening all at once. But kind of just briefly walk us through how you started Bellina Caetano, the opening of the Michigan store, and where you are now. Kind of skim us through. I know that there's a lot to unpack there, and I know that it's going to be hard to summarize in a few sentences, but kind of give us a brief timeline of, okay, so you moved here, at what point did you open the store, and how did that transition into, Bellina Caetano, the brand as it is today?
Yeah. Let's start with 2016. This little girl from Brazil just arrived in the US. And I brought with me a few pieces of jewelry, and also I brought with me my brand. That is the one asset that I got first thing. From the get-go, I knew I wanted a Brazilian name Bellina Caetano, one that would, yes, be a little bit hard for the American speaking traditional English to say, and that would bring the more exotic to the brand. I wanted a logo that could represent a lot, but in a nutshell, be feminine. Because at that point, remember, I didn't know exactly jewelry, right? So I left it a blank canvas, Bellina Caetano.
Right.
It could be multiple things. And then 2018, I had already immigrated, married. As I'm waiting for my documents, of course, I couldn't really open a LLC before that. So I had multiple gigs, you would say in America, right? Like
Right.
from babysitting to catering to working at a shoe store just a few hours. And in between those, doing like little jewelry trunk shows with the jewelry that I had brought from Brazil, just gathering some money in my bank account any
Right.
way I could. And then in 2018, I finally opened my LLC. It was great. It was a really amazing feeling because that allowed me to apply for markets and grow a little bit, right?
Right.
And then I had to drop like catering, and then I had to kind of like drop the shoe store, and I was just babysitting this cute little boy and thriving with Bellina Caetano,
Yeah.
right? Like I was doing markets during the weekends and really getting some momentum. And I was like, you know what? I'm ready to sit down and design. I'm ready to produce my jewelry line. And I start sketching. And as I start sketching, it's almost like manifesting, right?
Right.
Like now that some jewelry is already living in a piece of paper, I have already contacted manufacturing and they seem very positive. They loved the design. They
Right.
thought it was so different. And of course, maybe because I'm a self-taught designer and I design rings the way I imagine in my
Right.
head.
Yeah.
You know, they thought like, oh, we never seen rings like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is a new technique that I come up with. No one have ever seen. But basically it was, I didn't know how to draw a conventional ring. And it turned out to be one of the most exotic rings that people see, like
The one you're wearing.
the
Yeah.
famous
Yeah,
three-stone
stone ring.
ice cream cone ring.
That was my first ring, black and gold. Yeah.
So then the miracle really happened in around June 2018. I was looking for a pop-up. I was like, I think it's time that I do something on my own. And I was looking for a temporary space somewhere that would allow me to kind of start bringing my vision for what this brand's gonna look like.
Right.
And I came across this space on the 900 shops on Michigan Avenue. And at that time, for 1 month length pop-up, it would cost me literally every single penny that I had in my bank account that I had saved for almost 2 years.
Wow.
Yes. But I was like, you know what? Once I'm at Michigan Avenue, I will forever be able to say I was on Michigan Avenue.
Right.
So crazy Bella is gonna go and do it. I tell my husband, he shakes his head. He's like, but it's all your money. I'm like, I know, but money we make again.
Right.
And just so we don't get like 3 hours of story, you maybe can come to Bellina Caetano and have some tea with me and I can tell you the rest. It worked. I got the pop-up. I signed 30 days. I went there. The 30 days was great. I actually made money that month to pay for 2 more months.
Wow.
And that was like, this is what I was looking for.
Right.
An opportunity to bring my jewelry to the world in style. So I convinced the 900 shops to allow me to come back for the holidays and launch my very first drawn from me, you know, like my very first jewelry collection. So it happened. We launched it. On the end of 2018, I was like, I think we can stay here.
That's amazing.
I think Michigan Avenue is where Bellina Caetano belongs.
Yeah.
And we signed a lease, our very first 1-year lease for 2019. And that was an amazing year.
Oh my gosh.
We were considered the Brazilian oasis of Chicago. We were featured on the Chicago magazine. Like, people were talking about Bellina Caetano, and things start like really flourishing.
Right. You had a place to bring people together. And you know, being on Michigan Avenue, which is one of the most, you know, prestigious shopping streets in Chicago.
Yeah.
You know, you had that foot traffic to acquire new clients, or even just had that stamp of approval, like, hey, I'm a real brand, right?
Real brand, yes. And then 2019 it was great, and I don't even to tell you guys what happened in 2020
yes.
and 2021. So I feel that we are definitely on a renaissance time for Bellina Caetano. We had a little taste of what hard work can do.
Right.
And we were kind of caught as surprise like everyone else, and a lot of setbacks, but a lot of growth too, a lot of understanding of the brand that we want to be. We met amazing people like you during those times, were like hard times, but I think I bonded better with the community, and actually taking a little space during all this things that happened to us made me really find the purpose of why I created this brand, and why women would want to wear my jewelry. What does wearing my jewelry even means? And I think that it attracts really good entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I think that's what Bellina Caetano do. I don't know if it's because of my spirit, of the energy that I put when I'm designing, you know, like...
It's on the stones that you pick.
The stones, maybe. They say it has power. I'm not absolutely sure about that, but maybe the power is the intentions that we put in, right? And I definitely design with intention, and the intention is always to make women feel gracefully bold.
Yeah, you know, I admire you so much for, you know, you talk about that one decision that you really made. And of course you made so many decisions, you know, up until that point, but you making that decision to invest everything that you had and really take a chance on yourself. You betted on yourself. And I think that is what makes businesses grow. That is, I think, what women that I've seen who have thrived have done to get to the point where they want to be. That's what it really takes. It's taking that risk where you don't know what's going to happen, but if it goes well, like, it can really quadruple, you know, the magnitude of your brand. So, you know, and speaking up till today, right? Like, you've gone through, you know, from the journey you started in 2016 to now, which is at what, 6 years?
6 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, you have learned so much, and you've evolved with the brand, you've evolved with the times, you've adapted, you kind of shifted. Talk to me more about, let's go into those 6 things, right? So you've learned a lot. What are some of the things that you would do differently? And I know that, you know, we discussed briefly, but, you know, starting with the job aspect, what would you have done differently if you were to start your brand today?
Well, just like linking to your point that you made, is like, it only takes one person to believe in you for you to make it, right? That's a saying. Like, it takes one person to believe in you, and you are gonna make it. And it's fair to say that the one person that I know anybody here in the audience can convince very easily, or not so, but it's easy access, right? That person is you. You can be your first believer. And I think that that's what I did. I believed in myself. And I think the one thing I would do differently today, if I had a chance, is honestly to had gotten a formal job. Because as we talk about my experiences, right, I came to the United States in 2016, and I was only 25 years old. I was a little girl. And I attempt to get careers, like I study architecture. I came to the US in 2012 to study English. I was actually married when I was in Brazil at age 17. So I feel like I had multiple lives, but I never really had the opportunity to have a a solid job. And
like a traditional corporate office job?
A traditional corporate office job. And I see a lot of people kind of like, oh man, I have this 9-to-5 job and I don't really like it. If you are that person and you are in that position, take that as an experience that me, Bella, would die to have.
Right.
Trust me, that is also precious moments of your life, because it has something to do with learning from observing. You know, if I had the chance to see how an organization works, I think I would not have made so many mistakes that I made as Bellina Caetano grew to have its first employee, to have to think about corporate culture, like what is that? Like, or even like having a boss. Yeah. There's something to having a boss, you know? So really, since I didn't have that, I had to simply believe in me. You know, I had to simply believe that I could do things. And so yes, if you are at that position right now and you have the super cool 9-to-5 that pays you very well, that's another thing I never had, like a job that actually pays me very well. As an entrepreneur, it takes a long time for you to create a salary for yourself. So I would definitely do that.
Okay, so really
I would appreciate
the job that you
the
had.
job that I have at the moment of finding the purpose that you are trying to find.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. You know, I had the corporate experience and I did learn a lot, which I apply to today, even just from presenting and running meetings and taking notes, which is, you know, you can apply that to anything really that you're doing. So that's a good point. I know one of the other things you mentioned you would do differently is dedicate more time to thinking. So can you talk more about that?
Yes, well, when you are in your backyard one summer, right, and you come with this idea and then you are bored with your current job and you are like, should I quit? Should I not quit? Should I bring this fantasy that I create in my head to the world for them to see? I think we don't value as much as we should that bridge time between the idea that you had, that fabulous moment of like, wow, I can change the world if I put the energy this crazy idea needs. The world needs this, right? Like that's how you start really good businesses.
You start thinking crazy, right?
Pretty much, because it seems crazy because normally a successful business idea is one that has never been executed. So that means the world needs it. The world might not know yet it needs, right? Because it's in your head. And since that it's a brand new concept that you probably are coming up with, dedicating more time to the preparing for it to come to the world, you know, it's very important. When I started Bellina Caetano, I made a logo, I chose a name, and possibly what I was gonna sell, but I didn't dedicate enough time to really think, when this happened, then how is it gonna look like? The famous business plan. When an idea comes to our heads, very rarely I see, and I talk with a lot of entrepreneurs now because they come to me and I have been mentoring a few, and the business plan is such a scary part that no one wants to do, because we have this false belief that a business plan has to be right and polished and beautiful from the get-go. It almost seems that you are going to be showing your business plan to everyone that walks in your store. And like, no, you are not going to show your business plan to anybody but you. So it evolves. But putting that very good, thoughtful few months, if you need to, you know, into how is this really going to work? Year by year, maybe the first year I do this, the 3 years I do this, and then 5 years I do this. Not very specific because things change, circumstances change, but a plan, a roadmap.
Right.
Right? If I could have that chance, I think Bellina Caetano would have succeeded better.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, and it really depends. I think that there's pros and cons, right, to a lot of items, and it really just depends on where you are in your journey. But I think definitely there is a fallback to just being go, 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 right? The good thing is you get started and you learn as you go. The bad thing is you probably make a lot of expensive mistakes. That could really set you back. But I do think that that's one of the things I also struggle with my brand is like, okay, take a pause. Where are we going with this? What's the point? Why are we doing this? So I think that's really good advice. And then moving to your third point, right? You have a belief, right? Fake it till you make it. You actually don't agree with that, right?
I do not
Can
agree.
you tell us why?
And this might be controversy. I know it's going to generate a few different point views, and all points of views are welcome, right? But I believe that the fake until you make it is very dangerous, to be fairly honest. And it's dangerous with your mental health. Because the fake until you make it, you almost have to create this character in your own story. And you step out as a protagonist. You let this made up persona shines, and you are just in the
background, right,
just watching this person that you created having its moment, right? Like maybe you have, I don't know, like the best clothes to enter a room, and then people are gonna look at you. I'm not saying that looking good doesn't matter. Look at me with my
with your swap and strut
my
top.
swap and strut top. It does make a difference, but having to do certain things in order to pursue this, I don't want to
dream.
Well, no, the dream is worth to pursue, right?
Yeah.
But it's just putting yourself in a position where you have to, instead of waking up and being you with what you have to give to the world, you wake up and you are like, okay, I need to be this so that I'm accepted.
Ah, I love that. Yeah.
I need to be on Michigan Avenue, because I'm saying this from my own experience.
Right.
I thought in my head that the only way to get value for me and my brand was to be on Michigan Avenue. And I paid a very big price on my mental health by being there, because I love the idea of having a store on Michigan Avenue. I never took the time to think, who is going to open the store on Michigan Avenue? Who's going to clean the store on Michigan Avenue? Who's going to be there taking care of customers every single day, Sunday to Sunday? That was me. And I never crossed my mind that Bella, the little girl who had the dream,
right,
would need a break. Because this persona, this super powerful woman that can run the world that I created, the Brazilian boss lady, this girl has no time to charge her batteries. She runs at this amazing, almost like from another planet type of energy that she never runs out of energy. She's always on the go. She's always the most beautiful in the room. She knows how to talk. She will do the cleaning, from the cleaning to the panel. She will do it all. And that's what I mean by creating this persona that is almost, it's not sustainable.
I like that,
so just know that persona, it's good to have, but if you are going to create a character in your own story, at least make it inspired on yourself.
Yeah.
Understanding your needs, understanding who you want to be. And so don't fake to be someone else. Show up with your best self, because your best self will be always better than any fake until you make it type of character from another planet that you can come up with.
Let's talk email marketing for a second. Email marketing is an incredible form of marketing to your subscribers that allows you to directly contact them whenever you want, drive sales, and convert subscribers to buying customers. When I first started my clothing business, Swap and Strip, I was using MailChimp to send marketing emails to my subscribers. I quickly realized that MailChimp didn't have beautiful graphics. Their templates were very simple, and overall, the emails were ugly and not interesting. But luckily, I discovered Flowdesk. Flowdesk is an email marketing platform that helps small business owners like you design emails people love to get. They have beautiful email templates that make it easy for beginners to build their email list, engage their audiences, and convert subscribers into customers, all without a website. They have a simple to use drag and drop email builder that makes your emails look like you have an entire marketing team crafting and coding your emails. You can even insert GIFs and videos into your emails to up your email game. So, if you're looking to increase your brand awareness and drive sales, Flowdesk is a must-have. Use my code in the show notes to get an entire year at 50% off with, listen to this, unlimited emails and unlimited subscribers. You heard that right. Happy emailing. Now, let's get back to the show.
You know, as a business owner, I really truly think that being vulnerable and being yourself and to show not just your perfect side, right? To not just post edited photos, but to really post stories of you waking up, or like, you know, you just got through a big issue in your company. I think people really resonate with that, because even in my own case, when I post something on Instagram that's picture perfect, it might get a few likes, whatnot. And then when I post something thoughtful that's almost a little scary, a little vulnerable, that's like, hey, I just went through this bad thing and like I almost ended the company and whatnot, you get so much outrage. I get so many people DMing me privately saying, hey, you know, your story inspires me. So I think, you know, not faking it in that regard and just being vulnerable is very helpful to people around you. And as an entrepreneur, you do serve as a role model naturally, because people love to see, you know, how you do it. But then I think too, it's also just, it's good for business, just like being yourself, which I think is a symptom. I'm not saying that you should be authentic just to get sales, but I think it's a symptom. Like, people love to buy from people. So,
well, I'm gonna demystify this point for you, audience, because it almost seemed that you were afraid to tell, well, I am doing this because I want sales. No, wait a minute. No, I'm doing this because I'm genuinely doing this. I don't need sales. Well, how are you gonna pay your bills?
Yeah.
And how are you gonna sustain a business that is gonna change the world? That was me. I was so afraid to sell. And then at some point, as I grow and as I see my impact on women like you, because of my sales, I was able to host you for your opening at Michigan Avenue.
True, right? Yeah.
And I charge you how many dollars?
Zero.
You know who paid for your $0 to be there?
You.
No.
Well, the sales. Yeah, but yes,
You understand now?
Right.
So I feel that when a business is really built on mission-based, women-led, let's impact the world type of model, they are legit model these days, like business of impact.
Right.
It's very unnecessary for you to really show up as it is, and the fake until you make it don't really resonate with companies of impact, because a company of impact means that you, the leader, is creating a way for the community to help others. And that's beautiful, because a lot of us, we sit at home, we see all these things that are wrong in the world, and we want to help. We sit there and like, oh my gosh, what if I could just, like, I don't know, bring some food to the people in Africa?
Yeah.
But how do I even do that?
Right.
You know, people are literally sitting at home right now trying to figure out ways to help other people, because that's what makes us humans. We nurture relationships. We want to see our breeds, literally. It's on our genetics to see humankind flourish and evolve and survive. That is in our DNA. I'm not even making this up right now. We wanna, it's ingrained on ourselves to really strive for humanity to don't die. And when you put yourself out there as, I'm all set up, I'm all put together, I have my boat, I do my trips, I have my clothes, that is sending a signal to whoever you are trying to build as community that you don't need help.
Right.
So why would people at home help?
True. Yeah, I never thought about it that way.
Right? But when you put yourself in a place where, hey, look, because I did that during the pandemic, okay? I went to my social media and I say, hey guys, this is the deal. I do have a business on Michigan Avenue that might sound very fancy to whoever sees it online.
Yeah.
But the truth is that we have nobody here right now. The pandemic has washed people from the streets.
Yeah.
And if you don't place your orders and you don't make your purchases through Bellina Caetano jewelries, designs, Bellina Caetano is not going to exist anymore.
Right.
And you know the women that we are there with them when they are going into an interview, when they feel so powerful because of this ring.
Yeah.
You know, all the entrepreneurs we have opened the doors for them to come do their business.
Exhibit A, you know.
Yeah, you know, like those are going to disappear if you don't help us. And people really want to help. Remember, like they're just waiting for you to open up just a little bit so that they can come with what they can,
right,
and help.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I like that the way that you put it in words is, you know, if people don't think that you need help by posting and kind of perceiving this fake identity or this fake lifestyle that you really don't have, why would people help you? Which is true. And as an entrepreneur, you need all the help you can get. All the help. Yeah. So, you know, you talked about mentoring other people. So moving on to your fourth point, right? Mentorship. Talk about that.
I almost have to sit belt here and go into that. So I have been historically a very overwhelming person because I am extremely creative. I think I can do everything. And I think when I think about that Bella that can do everything, I don't think about the human Bella who can maybe focus in one thing at a time and make it perfect, right? And I think until you get your first mentor, and I'm saying mentor like a legit one, like there are programs over there that will get you someone who are a few steps in front of you career-wise, maybe has some connection with the field you want to follow, and that person can literally just give you good insights, you know, and keep you accountable. And if I could just had that back in 2016, oh man, I would probably never had wasted my time selling scissors or teacups or anything at Salvation Army that I would possibly find. Because my mentor, Eva, she one day got to the shop and I was selling all this stuff and she was so clear with me. Bella, if you want to do the amazing things you want to do, first you need to focus on yourself. First you need to focus on being the best you can be so that you can help others be the best they can be. And that made so much sense.
Yeah.
At that time. I'm like, yes, you're right. So I would definitely, if you are thinking about quitting your job, if you're thinking about putting a business plan together, don't wait until your brand is out in the world to then find a mentor. Find a mentor now so that your brand can be in the world with the most valuable possible you can bring at that time.
Right. And how did you go about finding your mentor? How did you find your mentor?
I found my mentor through Chicago Innovation. It's an organization here in Chicago. They do this program called Ageless. And what that means is very successful people in Chicago who now are retired and they still looking for some fun projects to spend the next few decades that they have available. They are literally actively looking to mentor young entrepreneurs. So I would strongly recommend going to the Chicago Innovation website, finding the Ageless program, and signing up.
I need to sign up. You've told me and I put it off and I need to do that.
It's every year. And
Yeah.
my mentor, I have even in my life for 3 years, and it has been the most flourishing 3 years of my life.
Wow, I love that. And then speaking of your life, right? Coming to your last point, number 5, which, you know, it seems very simple, but there's so much behind it, right? So understanding the lifestyle you desire, what would you have done differently today?
Well, that is a very sensitive subject because it really ties to, we dream about being successful, but I almost feel that we all, and that is including me, do this mistake of success at any cost. You know, I would do everything it takes in order to be successful. Well, guess what? I'm not gonna do everything it takes to be successful. I will do what I can and do my best, and if success is a byproduct of that, which generally is the case, I would just enjoy the success, but not at the cost of my mental health, not at the cost of my marriage, not at the cost of not having real relationships, you know, because in the end of the day, when you sacrifice everything to be successful, you might feel pretty alone when you get there.
Right.
And I think that is very important to keep in mind. Which life do you envision? What is the life that you want to create for yourself? So I would say that if I could have started back in 2016, if I would know that being 25, moving to another country, speaking a second language, marrying someone from another culture, if I had only knew that time that was quite enough for me to handle, yeah. Maybe I didn't need the brand new business that I wanted to be so big in such a short period of time. Maybe if I had the knowledge that and process that right now, back like in 2022, I barely will turn 32. I see amazing women in their 40s, and they are just now starting their dream careers, creating their jobs, and starting something brand new. You are still so young, and you still have so many decades to unfold that it's really necessary for you to see your life when you are young from like a bird view, you know, like as a whole. Do I want to do philanthropy? And do I actively want to make time for that throughout my 6-7 decades of actively working and providing value to society? Like, do I want to be married? Do I have this desire to have kids? And even if I don't, but what if I then get that desire? You know, like really thinking about your lifestyle. Like understanding that actually, especially if you are thinking more as a leadership role, you know, like to be a leader of a company, leadership doesn't mean you are going to do less. It's not a permission for you to work less. It's actually like an obligation almost to do more. Right. Because now you have lives pretty much that depend on you. Right. Not only the consumer that you are serving, but the people you might be employing. There are a lot, you know, so really you have to keep in mind that that is going to be a lifestyle that is going to require you to have a lot of discipline. Are you capable of doing that? You know, right. Are you capable of understanding that you will need to be so disciplined even with yourself and understanding your basic needs of, well, when I started my business, I wanted to travel. Well, so then you have to kind of come up with a business that allows you to travel and still the business generate revenue to do the things that it needs to do. You know, like think of that. Like think about you personally. because your business is gonna be an extension of yourself. Even if you grow so drastically and you become public and someone just buy your entire company and you don't have to work ever anymore, you know, even then you kind of have to think about legacy, you know,
Right.
about like what do you even want to leave to the world so that it kind of relates to the lifestyle that you want.
Yeah, and I think in general, it's much easier to work towards a goal that is defined, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the lifestyle you want to have is like, okay, what does that look like, and how can I put it into words? One exercise that I like to do every year that I found really helpful in this kind of same regard is that I watched this TED Talk that talked about illustrating your dream life, and it means exactly that, drawing the life you want to live.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll link the TED Talk in the show notes, but I like doing that because every year, you know, it's a way of really getting creative and allowing yourself to explore. 'Cause sometimes it's hard to put into words what it is that you want to do. But you know, I've gone through the exercise year after year, and it's awesome to look back a year later and see, you know, how much I've accomplished from that drawing. You know, from getting married, I drew out that I wanted to marry my boyfriend, husband at the time, that I wanted a dog, that I wanted a car, that I wanted to live in this certain area, and everything I drew it. And you go year after year, and it's like, it's really inspiring to see what you've done, but then also the exercise of just going through and illustrating, it triggers a certain item in your brain, which again, I'll link the video, they'll explain it better there, but it triggers something in your brain that says, okay, this is now the goal. Now what do I need to do to get there? So that way you're already building and designing the life you want to live in accordance to your dream. You're not sacrificing the things that really mean something to you. It's
You're not creating your life to fit inside of your business. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
You are creating a business that fits in the life you dreamed of.
Yes.
For example, for me, I'm sorry, if you are here in Chicago listening to this podcast, you know that January and February is unbearable in Chicago. So I designed my business plan, and there's a magic over there because I put all my production to be in January and February. And where's production? In Brazil.
You're so smart.
Yes, in the opposite hemisphere where it's tropical and it's beautiful.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm working, right? But I'm not freezing in Chicago.
I remember seeing this past year, you were in Brazil, and I was like, oh my goodness. And I was freezing here in Chicago. But I mean, I think that just goes to show the power that you have. Like once you're strategic and you really sit down and think and you set boundaries, there's no reason why you should be.
I had to do production of my jewelry at some point. So I might as well, if I already envision this lifestyle for myself, and I do not see my life being negative for the whole year. Almost. We get like 3 months of summer in Chicago. So I think that the universe, God, call it what you want, but it's watching you, you know? And you have to be specific.
Yeah.
You know? Don't be one of those girls who wants your boyfriend to just like demystify what you want in your head. Tell him. You know?
Right.
Like tell the universe what you want.
You got to put it out there. Draw it out. It starts with drawing out. It starts with. I love that so much, and I love that you think big, and I love that about you. And even whenever I talk to you, I always get so inspired by you, and even this conversation, like I cannot thank you enough. So for our listeners, what are 2 actionable steps that you would recommend to women that are thinking about quitting their job and starting their businesses? If there's one thing that I want listeners to get out of this podcast is actionable steps. I think that there are so many podcasts out there that just kind of say theories and, oh, this is what you should do, but they don't tell you how. So give me 2 concrete tips that you would recommend to women who are thinking about taking that leap.
I think that 2 steps that are very important and can be done by anyone listening. Either you have lots of resources monetarily in your life, or if you have 0, this can be done. One is really getting a mentor to help you set up that plan, set up even your exit. Maybe you have to wait a little bit more and save a little bit more money and really build up that plan, right? But I know that at that time, you are not probably gonna have the tools you need to do this plan. So do a rough draft, just an idea in an industry that you wanna be at. You know, like you have to have that basic so that you can find a good mentor that kind of matches and would bring you the most value. Right?
Right.
But then the second step would be use the resources that we have in our communities. You know, every city, especially if you are in a major city, has centers for women. And they are there with their doors open to help any women entrepreneur. Even if you are just thinking about, don't hesitate to go to let me mention a few here, like a WBDC, like Women Development Center of Chicago. We can put on the show notes.
Yeah.
I will give you guys like maybe 3 good resources, but like the SBA is another great resources that they have designated people on a daily basis at SBA to talk with you and really run through the step-by-step of how to open a business, because very often we think about the fancy part of the idea. We don't realize that for every fancy idea you have probably 3 documents that you have to fill up. And it's might be your LLC, the insurances that you have to have in order to initiate your businesses. Which type of licenses do you have to have?
Right.
You know?
The non-sexy stuff.
The non-sexy stuff. Don't underestimate how much it even takes to get there for you to even start bringing to the world your idea. So I think that just giving that that chance for you to even understand, okay, I want to do, for example, in my case, I would never go after a food business because I don't know if I have the patience to go through all the permits that you need to sell popcorn.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
So I'm not that person. I'm more creative person. So if you are that person, don't go that route.
Yeah.
But if you are more like, you know what, I love the challenge of setting up these things.
Right.
So, but first you need to understand, right?
So what you need. Then it's easy to get the help.
I think SBA is a very good starting point. So yeah, WBDC, SBA, I think it's national. So you have many branches everywhere. And maybe some smaller organizations in your city. Just Google like women entrepreneur centers, and you will start like coming up across many. Start going there, showing up just to listen, you know, maybe go support other women entrepreneurs and learn from them.
Yeah, so find a mentor and then make the best use out of the resources available to you, especially if you're in a popular city. So before we leave, Bella, how can people find you and learn more about you and just follow you through your journey?
Well, I think that the very first channel to connect with me is Instagram. I manage my own Instagram. I'm always there. I respond to every single person that comes there. And it's easy to remember, is the Brazilian Boss Lady.
Which we'll link as well.
Yeah, so we will link as well, but there's just one Brazilian Boss Lady, and that's me. I'm on Twitter as well, Brazilian Boss Lady. Bellina Caetano is my brand, and our website is the best place to get a feel for it, bellinacaetano.com. And don't hesitate to book a tea time at our amazing website. You can maybe have a chance to even come and grab some tea with me. Sometimes I do tea times even to this day.
Yeah.
So it's not guaranteed that it's going to be me every single time, but you never know. It's either going to be me or one of my amazing girls that house me, and you can always just pop in on Michigan. Yeah. Our new address is 307 North Michigan Avenue, so we did moved from our previous location, but we are still there. We are still the Brazilian Oasis.
You know where to find her. Thank you so much for being here, Bella. I appreciate you. Thank you for being my first guest.
Yes, this is actually, I think, just that moment where you know you are on the right path, because you are, first I helped you
Yeah.
amplify your voice, your brand, your dreams, and now you are really helping me amplify my mission of really mentoring other women entrepreneurs. And if I can give any advice to people who are, especially women who are trying to open up their business and start their brands, is to be kind to themselves.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for being here, Bella.
Oh, thank you.
I really hope you enjoyed this podcast with Bella Caetano. I really hope that you got the best out of her 5 things that she would do differently if she were to start her business today. If you enjoyed this podcast and if you would love to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe from wherever you are listening to this podcast. It will really help out. And if you want to be amazing, go ahead and drop a 5-star review or, a good review. It'll really help me out and it'll really help me share this podcast with other women. Thank you.